Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will be finally designing the form that is nothing but the form which is going to accept the data or the book data from the user, so that the user will be able to type in some data into that form and that data will be submitted to the backend. So the first thing which you need to do is that you obviously need to create a new template here. So again, let's go to template. File which gives us the navigation drawer or the navigation bar as well as the background image. So make sure that you include this thing in your form as well, and also the rest of the code which we were typing in into the HTML file actually needs to be included in between the block body and the end block tag. So make sure that you also have these tags over here. So let's go ahead and type them up quickly. So this is going to be block body, go down here, and the next one is going to be end block. So as you could see, we also had an end block over here, so make sure that you also include end block over here, and the entire code for this file is going to be contained in between these two things. So now let's go ahead and start typing in the code. So this is actually going to be completely bootstrap based things, and what I'm going to do here is that instead of typing each and everything, I'm going to simply copy some of the code, and I'm going to explain you guys what everything is. So for the most part, I will just copy the bootstrap part, and the Django part I'll explain you guys in much more detail. So I'm going to pause this thing and I'm going to copy and paste code over here, and I'll explain you what that actually means. Okay, so right now I've copied this code, which is basically nothing but it is a container. So this thing right here, which is the outer div class, is simply a container, which is a fluid container which is going to hold up your form. Then we have created certain rows in that container, and we have divided those rows into further columns, and we have a panel over here, and we have created a panel body. Now this is completely related to bootstrap. You could skip this thing, but just so as to make this thing look attractive, I have used this kind of thing. And now comes the important part, which is to actually go ahead and design the form. So to design the form, you actually need to go in between these two tags, and you need to type in the form class. So you need to type in let's say form, and the class is going to be form horizontal. And now let's type in the action. So the action is going to be empty for now, and the method or the form method which we are going to use here is going to be post. So because we are posting the data into the database, and the enc type is going to be multi-part form data. So this is completely a bootstrap kind of thing. You actually don't need to worry about it. And now actually comes the part where we talk about Django. So whenever you are actually submitting a form, you actually need to have a CSRF token inside your form. So let's go ahead and add that quickly. So this is going to be CSRF underscore token. And after this token, now comes the time where we actually go ahead and create our form. But instead of creating that form right over here, what we are going to do is that we are going to create that particular form in some another HTML file, and we are going to have a reference to that particular file. So we will create a separate file which will be called as form-template.html. So what we need to do here is that we actually need to add a reference to that file. So again, you type in include and the file name and its path. So that file is going to be in books/form-template, and this thing should actually be a slash, and this should be template.html. So this is going to include that file, and right now we don't have that sort of file created, so we will create that thing soon. But the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to have a submit button so that the data actually gets submitted. So first we create a div class. This is going to be a form group, and now let's go ahead and add in another div class. So this is all Bootstrap, and you actually don't need to worry about it a lot. If you know Bootstrap, you must be knowing what I'm doing, and Bootstrap is actually not that hard of a thing to learn. You could easily learn it within a day or two if you completely commit to it. So, and that's the reason why I'm not explaining you guys the exact things which I'm doing here in Bootstrap. So this is basically just to make the site more responsive and more attractive. Okay, so now comes the time to add the button. So we type button type equals submit. So this is the submit button which we are going to use, and the class of this is going to be btn, which stands for button, btn dash success, and we end this thing and we name it as submit. And once we have this button, we are basically good to go. Now what we need to do is that we need to make the form template which we have included over here. So right now we don't have any template. So what I'm going to do is that I'm simply going to copy this name right here. I'm going to go to the books directory, right click on it, go to new, create an HTML file, paste the name over here and hit OK. So now we actually need to include a form field here, and we actually need to handle errors in this form right here. So the first thing which we do is that we actually need to loop through the entire form items. So for that, what we do is that we create a for loop. So you type for field in form, and that is going to actually loop through each and every field of the form. And finally you need to end the loop by typing end for. So that is going to end your loop right there. And now the next thing which you need to do is that you again need to create a form group. So that is going to be div class. This is going to be form group. Once you have this form group, you could go ahead and create a class to basically make it a little bit responsive. So you could type in div. I'm going to simply paste this thing so as to make this thing responsive. Okay, so this thing is actually to make this class responsive, or the elements contained in this class responsive. And now what you need to do is that whenever the user enters some invalid text, you actually need to show an error. So for that purpose, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to type in span class equals, and that is going to be text danger. So the text danger basically means you actually need to display the text in red color. So that means some sort of warning that you have not entered the correct details over here. So in this span, you actually need to display out the errors. So to get the exact errors, you type field dot errors, and that is going to return the exact errors which are caused by not typing in the exact appropriate details. Now you also need to have the fields over here to the form. So in order to get those fields, you type label. So you actually need to have a label as well as a text box. So you type label class equals, that is going to be a control label, and that is going to be column sm2. And if you don't actually understand Bootstrap, then please do let me know, and I'll be there to make tutorials on Bootstrap in the same course if you actually want a brief introduction about Bootstrap. So make sure that you feel free to ask me for those tutorials, and those tutorials will be included in this course itself if you want. Okay, so now let's go back and let's see what we need to type into the label. So in place of labels, we actually want the labels of the certain fields. So to get the field labels, we type in field dot label underscore tag, and that is basically going to return you the labels for that particular field. So the first field is name, the next field is author. So this thing will actually go through the entire loop, and it is actually going to place each and every label on the form. Then the last thing which remains is the field itself. So you type div class equals call dash sm dash 10. So again, this is a bootstrap thing, and the only thing which you need to include here is the field. So you type in field over here. So once this is done, you are pretty much good to go. So now only thing is that you actually need to redirect the user to this form in some or the other way. So in order to do that, you need to go to the base template. So it refers to book index, and instead of book index, we actually want to redirect it to book-add. So if you go to urls.py, which is this file right here, as you could see, book-add actually goes over here. So I guess that should be book-add or _add. So let's see if this thing actually works, and if it doesn't, let's make some relevant changes over here. So let me just refresh this thing. Okay, so we got an error. Okay, so as I guessed, the error was due to this, because this actually referred to an underscore and the URL actually referred to dash. So once these two things are same, you could pretty much save the code. You could go back here, you could just refresh this thing, and when you click this button add book, as you could see, it tells you to add the particular details of a particular book. So right now you could add in a particular name. So let's say the name of this book is new rules. Let's say I am the author of this book. Let's say the price of this book is $10. Let's say the type is business. And for the book image, you could go ahead and add any of the images which you want. So I'm going to randomly add any image URL, but make sure that this URL actually belongs to some URL on the internet. So simply click submit. And I guess we again have an error. Okay, so the reason why we got an error is I've added up a new book over here, and the error was that when we add the book, we should be redirected to this page right here, but due to that error, the book actually got added, but we were not redirected to a new page. But right now, as you could see, the book is added, and I'm obviously basically blurring out the image of the book because I don't want to promote it, because I accidentally gave it a random book cover. And when you click on details, as you could see, it is going to redirect you to a brand new page of that particular book, which is the details page for that book. So whenever you actually feel a need to add a book into your library, you could simply click on add book. You could specify the name, author, price, type, and the book image, and when you hit submit, the book is automatically going to be added to your website. And if you try to basically leave these fields empty and hit submit, as you could see, it says that please fill out this field. So this type of error handling is also automatically provided by Django, and we don't have to actually worry about it. So that's one good thing about Django. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys actually understood how to go ahead and create a form to basically add data to the database. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.